Hey everyone, this is Logan Skeele, and welcome to my new podcast. Now this is all new to me, so I thought I'd share with you the beginnings of Advantage Diecast. But before we can get to Advantage Diecast, we have to go way back. I still remember my first diecast truck. I got it at the local farm equipment dealer, and it was for the company's parts delivery service. The dealership was poorly lit inside, but the toys on the rack to the side of the showroom always stood out to me. My dad would take me there from time to time when I was little to look at the toys, and it was such a huge treat for me. Normally he would buy me a farm tractor or implement, but I wanted a truck this time. Something that brings the tractors to my little carpet farm, just like I'd seen going up and down the highways on family vacations. I was fascinated by those big noisy diesel trucks, going who knows where but moving on down the road. Seeing them made me want to have some in my collection, especially the ones with the company names that I recognized. On one of these family vacations, we stopped at my favorite toy store and picked up a few more die-cast trucks. Mostly trucks related to farming or construction, as I thought those were the coolest, and I couldn't find any company name trucks that I knew. Eventually, my little carpet farm followed the path of lots of real farms, and the farm sold land off bit by bit for new highways and industry to move in. This required more trucks to fill the gap, but detail was lacking in the trucks available, so on the hunt was. I searched the toy shows, the catalogs, and then the internet, where I found lots of trucks. These trucks were getting better, but something was still missing. They didn't quite know what it was, but they just didn't look great. Detail wasn't good, or company names I knew weren't available, or something else which kept my truck collecting down, even though I know I wanted more in my collection and on my display. Not to be discouraged, I kept on hunting, and found a company making detailed trucks in my scale with company names that I knew. Fantastic for me, and boy did my truck collection grow then. It was my last year of college, and I had a project to create a business plan, and I thought to myself, what better business than to sell die-cast replicas? It's my hobby, my passion, and looked like fun. So armed with textbooks, I started my research. Information was easy to come by, and after a few weeks, I had to present my business plan to the class. Now, most students would just read their plan and move on. Not me. I brought in sample products and laid them out on the table in the classroom for all my potential investors to see and touch, so they had a concrete idea of my plan. The room was only half lit, with the rows of student desks in the darker part of the room, so as to make us presenters stand out in front of the whiteboard. When my presentation was done, the professor congratulated me, and the rest of the students sat there just kind of ho-hum. The presentation got top marks and let me graduate on the dean's list. Talk about huge. This presentation literally changed my life. No longer did I want to find a job, I wanted to sell diecast. And then Heartland Diecast and Promotion was born. Fast forward a bit, I'm still collecting diecast for myself, as well as selling them to a diverse group of collectors from all over the world. This was great, but it just wasn't enough. Someday I thought to myself I wanted to own my own brand making toys, but I didn't know what I wanted to make. It was such a cool idea. Make something that others would be proud to remember me by, but boy was it scary too. What if they didn't like it, or something went wrong with all that money on the line? Right? I let those things just hold me back for the longest time. Then one day I looked at my collection, and I was just bummed. It didn't make sense. I had lots and lots of trucks sitting there with company names ranging from coast to coast. Trucking companies I admired when I was young, riding in the car up and down America's highways on family vacations. This is what I wanted as a kid but couldn't get, so why should I be bummed by this? Then it hit me. While staring at my truck dock, I had 6 trucks backed into the dock doors from 6 different trucking companies, but every single one of them looked the same. It was weird. I wanted to see more variety, so off on the hunt. Again, only to find out there was no more variety. Boring, right? Hundreds of trucks and all of them the same. That's when it hit me that if I wanted to have new trucks, I was going to have to make them myself. And Advantage Diecast was born. Now I had an idea of what I wanted to make, so research time again. It kind of felt like back in college working on that presentation. minutes worth of research to list all the trucks that had been made, and hours and hours and hours worth of research on the list of trucks that had not been made. Whew, narrowing down that list was going to take forever. Luckily, knowing I had to get a license from the OEM, it did make it a bit easier, as my mentor had contacts to open doors for me at Chevrolet. This shortened the list considerably, as Chevrolet only made a handful of highway trucks. However, just getting the door open was a huge help, but boy did it not make it easy. The guy at Chevy Licensing had not even heard of the Chevy Titan 90. Can you believe that? Didn't even know that Chevy made semi-trucks. I found it amusing that I had to teach them about their own products. But hey, I get it. These trucks were canceled before this guy was even born. Every day I would hurry to my office to check my email in the morning and see if Chevy had said yes. Most days I was just left cold, as nothing came from Chevy. But finally there it was, in my inbox, the license agreement signed by me and the guys at Chevrolet. What a relief that was. The first major hurdle done. Only problem with this is time, and time is money with licensing. 3 years just isn't very long to tool up and produce trucks for sale. So back came the daily stress, checking emails regularly to see about updates, or worse, problems from the factory. It was nerve-wracking but exciting. I still remember sitting down to my desk and opening the email with the pictures of the prototypes. Oh man, talk about a great day. They looked fabulous, and there was a note attached saying they had been shipped to me. Talk about exciting. I just couldn't wait for the UPS man to come knock on my door and drop them off. The day finally arrived, and I rushed down to get the package, but I didn't open it. Now this seems crazy, right? All this time and money invested, and I don't even open the package yet. Instead, I call up my mentor and set up a lunch meeting with him for the following Monday, a whole weekend away. There, we opened the package together to oohs and ahs about the detail and critique the few missing parts. It was getting real. The first model in my hand, so cool. But after notes and photographs, back to the factory the prototypes went for the next step in the manufacturing process. Weeks and weeks went by and nothing heard. The questions in my head were buzzing. Is there something wrong? What's happening? No answers, but lots of nerves. Eventually, more tooling parts are sent over, only to find out that they made the wheels the wrong size. No, wait, they made them the correct size. Turns out the company that set the standard that all customers expect to see scaled their wheels wrong. Fun, huh? Can't believe it. Now my wheels are correct to scale, but the customers won't buy because they will say the wheels are too small. Dilemma. Back to the drawing board to get the wheels right. Again, more rushing to my email, only to find nothing for days and weeks. I really don't know how I survived the agony of waiting. Nothing had ever been this hard, but finally I still remember it was right before Thanksgiving. An email with photos of the decorated samples was waiting in my inbox. Happy day as I was jumping for joy seeing the subject title line. However, once again, the joy was short-lived, as the pictures popped up showing the wrong paint scheme. Simple directions seem to confuse engineers and designers. It's just got to be a curse that they think that they need to complicate things. But like with the prototypes, the photos, there was a tracking number on this email too. Too late to stop it, but out came my notepad to write down the obvious problems. Remove stripes. Once again, I checked that tracking number every few hours to see where the truck was and when it would arrive at my door. It was a cold Wednesday when it arrived, but this time I couldn't wait for the lunch meeting I had scheduled with my mentor on Friday. I opened the package to find a broken part, which on these samples is not really uncommon. What was uncommon, though, was the reason why. When they made the wheels bigger, they didn't account for it in the frame length, so the mud flaps looked funky and broke. Same old notepad came out and feverishly adding to the paint scheme problem the other major problems. With this, I can't believe this being said over and over and over again at the meeting. After all was said and done, the list really wasn't that big though. Frame length, straighten a fuel tank, and fix the stripes. All in all, not terrible. Sadly, though, not cheap to fix either, as a modification to the diecast frame was required. Can you believe that 9 months have passed since tooling started? And we aren't done yet. I know I was not wanting to believe it, but there it was. Yet another month to fix the frame and get samples sent for licensing approval. This time, though, the package arrived and no problems, or so I thought. When I turned the model over, the required licensing mark that was instructed to be placed under the trucks was missing. I swear at this point I thought I was cursed. Is everyone having problems like me? I asked my mentor that in a text, and he replied, "Welcome to the club." All I could do is laugh at this and request the new parts to fix these, which thankfully the factory rushed right over. Now for the most important part, getting Chevy to say yes. I had models cast, the factory was painting them, and Chevy hadn't said yes yet. I rushed those repaired samples down to UPS for overnight AM delivery to Detroit. Fingers crossed that nothing would get broken or lost along the way. Talk about relief the next day when I get an email from Chevrolet saying final approval granted. Now this was a huge relief to me, especially since I had only got the prototype samples sent to for licensing. I hadn't even gotten to the production stage samples yet, but the models I did send were final production samples, so I see how they thought they were and skipped those other steps. Production was going full bore to get these made and shipped. Now to find a shipper. Back to my old Rolodex and call up my old friend at the UPS supply chain to get our trucks air freighted over. Could not be happier. Now his timing was close, and it looked like they would make it just in time for the big truck show. What better place to launch a new truck model company and product? One slight problem. Customs paperwork was filled out wrong. Once again, that I must be cursed feeling comes back as my product is sitting across the street from this huge event and I can't get it. The following week I prod UPS to see what the hang-up is, and they keep giving me forms to fill. Then finally someone there says, "What chemicals are you shipping?" And I was like, "What? I'm not shipping any chemicals." Her response was, "Well, customs forms don't indicate what chemicals, so we need this info on your raw materials you shipped over." By now a light bulb is popped on over my head, and I get the idea that customs forms are not right. So I asked for a copy of them. If this wasn't such a calamity, it'd be a funny comedy. But the UPS rep overseas didn't fill out the customs declaration. He just wrote parts on it and shipped it. I corrected it with the bill of lading, invoice, and packing list that UPS was given by myself and the factory prior to picking up the shipment. And they were able to correct the forms and magically replace my product in under an hour. What an ordeal. But it's coming to a close as the trucks are scheduled to come to my dock the next day. Finally, a full year later, my Chevrolet Titan 90 models can add variety to collectors' shelves. What an awesome feeling knowing that all my hard work paid off. My collection now has a real variety that I'm proud to show off to everyone. Even better, though, is the feeling that comes with knowing so many others will love and cherish them for generations to come.